Books don't often find themselves on video game YouTube channels, but today is an exception. This is the Crash Bandicoot Files, How Willy the Wombat Sparked Marsupial Mania. Released in March 2018, retailing for $29.99 US, the Crash Bandicoot Files is more than your typical video game art book release. It is a high-resolution recreation of the original design document for the first Crash Bandicoot game, when the project went by the name Willy the Wombat in 1994 and 1995. And when I say high-resolution recreation, I mean just that. The contents of this book are pulled straight from the Naughty Dog archives, complete with penciled-in notes and even a scan of the outside of the document binder itself. I was fortunate enough to find this book in circulation at my library, and I'm here today to give an overview of its contents and tell you whether or not it's worth your reading pleasure. The book doesn't waste much time getting straight to the point. There's a table of contents, a foreword by Naughty Dog co-founders Andy Gavin and Jason Rubin, and then the developer Bible itself. The foreword is a 4-paragraph recounting of the creative process behind the game and its multiple teams, as well as a disclaimer of sorts stating that while this is a very thorough recollection of design notes and concepts, it is not indicative of the entire process, as there just isn't a way to capture the tens of thousands of hours that went into Crash Bandicoot's development. A nice context establisher for the rest of the book. The remainder of the book is a true developer's Bible in every sense of the phrase, complete with deadline schedules, concept art, meticulously detailed game design notes, hand-drawn level maps, and character bios. While it's certainly charming to see art and design concepts that I recognize from the final product, I think the book's strongest asset is the collection of stuff that didn't make it into the final game. Crash's eponymous prototype, Willy the Wombat, is a far cry from his final character. His origins as Dr. Cortex's super soldier gone wrong are still the same. However, Willy was subjected to a week's worth of media bombardment, including TV marathons and endless action and kung fu movies. This made him a Gex-like character full of movie references and erratic one-liners. The document itself describes him as Rambo one moment, or Fred Astaire, or John Wayne, or Fred Flintstone the next. I've gotta say, I'm really glad they went with the character they did in the end because that just sounds obnoxious. Crash, or Willy, isn't the only one with a deeper character background in this document. Dr. Cortex and Brio have several paragraphs of character background and history, nary a word of it making into the final story of Crash Bandicoot. It really makes you wonder just how much gets left behind the further a game makes it into development. Evidently, a lot, according to this book. The framework for the final Crash Bandicoot game remained intact since day one, with the plot, 3-island progression structure, and the game's basic formula all being largely unchanged. That being said, there are so many potential mechanics and ideas laid out in this document that were either pushed back into the sequels or dropped entirely. Just to name some off, Aku Aku started off as a full-body witch doctor companion, and there were 6 variants of the mask power-up, each with different abilities. Crash Bandicoot 2 bosses like the Komodo brothers and Tiny the Tiger were meant to appear in the original title as well. Minecart levels, underwater levels, a disarming slide move, vine climbing, and so much more were meant to be incorporated in this original proof of concept. I'll leave most of the unseen mechanics to you as a reader to discover for yourself, but some of the stuff sounds like it would have made for an entirely different game. It's some common gaming trivia these days that in-house, Crash Bandicoot was referred to as the Sonic's ass game, and this document goes to show just how much Sonic the Hedgehog influence there was on the project, with a touch more emphasis on speed, a wider emphasis on items and power-ups, and even the zone and act structure found in Sonic games. There are so many ideas and concepts in the draft that didn't make it into the game, and it gives a lot of insight as to how Naughty Dog was able to crank out the sequels in such a short span of each other, as a good chunk of unused ideas made it into Crash 2 and 3. In fact, I'd say it's kind of a blessing that the team cut out as much potential content as they did. There's a fair level of bloat to this original design, and I think that Naughty Dog avoided biting off more than they could chew with how much content they axed. With that said, I really wish that this book offered some more after-the-fact developer commentary detailing just what caused the changes to the final game. It's certainly cool to have all these resources as a huge Crash Bandicoot fan, but I can't help but want there to be a little bit more to this book than a straight-up recreation of the design document itself. Some of the pages might as well be blank, and a good 50% of the book itself is just the concept art. Don't get me wrong, the art featured in the Crash Bandicoot Files is particularly good, but I could see how this kind of thing just doesn't appeal to a certain audience. I would have really liked something just a bit more substantial and insightful from a book subtitled How Willy the Wombat Sparked Marsupial Mania. The book just kind of ends too. You get to the end and that's it. No closing thoughts or anything, it's just over. Nonetheless, the Crash Bandicoot Files is still a really cool piece of literature, offering a rarely seen glimpse into just what goes into the creation of a video game before the first pixels and polygons are even drawn. That being said, I really don't know if I can recommend a full price purchase for this book. I was able to check it out from my library, and I had gone cover to cover within 2 hours. The recording of this flip through alone only took about 10 minutes. Once you've gone through it, I can't really see the Crash Bandicoot Files being a book that you come back to after your first read. Your mileage is going to vary, of course. If this is something that interests you as a Crash Bandicoot fan, or just someone that's curious to the inner workings of game development, it's certainly a very cool read, despite its brevity. If you can borrow it from a friend, find it on sale, or even find it at the library like I did, I would definitely recommend it.